All right, Tom, let's move on to the Sixers and Celtics. Philly, they go into Boston. Oh, it's before the game. Footage comes out. Joel Embiid taking shots pregame, trips and falls over into the front row. And you're thinking, oh, no, not again. It's happening again. No. And then Philly, he plays. He has a good game, 27 points on 15 shots, and the Sixers go into Boston and they get a win on Christmas Day. People wondered, oh, too bad they get scheduled against Boston. They're going to get slaughtered, and they win. Is this a turning point for the Sixers, Tom?
I hope so. Caleb Martin, he has to play the Celtics every time, I guess. It's unbelievable what
Dude,
he does.
What the hell? How? What is it about that the green on the other side that just activates something in him? Caleb Martin turns into a different player against Boston.
Statistically, I forget who I think it might have been Automatic NBA on X. He posted that the last 2 years, the biggest differential in field goal percentage versus one team versus everybody else, the number one guy on the list is, of course, Caleb Martin against the Celtics. I don't know what crazy. It is. He turns into an all-star. He almost won a freaking Eastern Conference MVP against the Celtics a couple years ago with the Miami Heat, and here he goes. He does it again. Big 5 lead. You got to have Caleb Martin on your team against the Celtics. Look, the Embiid little scare before the game, it made me feel like Sideshow Bob when he's stepping on the rakes from The Simpsons, where it's like he can't avoid any sort of stepping on the rake. Every time we see this team come together, they completely have some crazy thing to happen to break them apart. The stat going into the game, Kev, was they played 5 games together, the big three. Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid have played 5 games together. They've only finished 2 games together. They've played 5, only finished 2 because of Paul George and Embiid getting hurt in those games. So finally, and Paul George didn't play well, but finally we got to see this Sixers team whole in a sense. There was no Andre Drummond, still no Eric Gordon, but they were whole in the sense that they got their big 3 and they got Caleb Martin playing. I think the biggest stretch of the game was in the beginning of the fourth quarter. No Embiid on the floor. The Sixers looked like the Celtics. They played 5 out, and Luke Cornett could not stay in front of anybody because of that 5 out system. And they're just taking people off the dribble. And Tyrese Maxey looked fantastic, but Kyle Lowry was hitting shots. Caleb Martin was hitting shots. And it really just goes to show how hard it is to play in today's NBA. If you're a 5 and being asked to guard 30 feet away from the basket, Kevin Durant said it after the game, just talking about how hard it is to play in today's NBA, and the Sixers playing 5 out with Yabusele in the corner. If you're Luke Cornett, what are you supposed to do when you're on an island against Tyrese Maxey? It's impossible.
And you mentioned Yabusele. I mean, he's been really good for Philly, man. They signed him out of France. He hadn't played in the NBA since he was in Boston, the 18-19 season. And Yabu, his first 2 years in the NBA with the Celtics, he had the fun nickname, the Dancing Bear. He was a little bit of a kind of a fan favorite off the bench in Boston, but he wasn't a very good player. So he goes overseas for 5 years. In the Olympics, he shines for the French national team. And then he goes to Philly, and he's doing a lot of the same stuff. Super versatile defensively, shooting 39% from 3. He fixed his shot overseas. He continues to be a high-level shooter for Philadelphia. The versatility, the shooting ability, the acceptance of his role, the hustle, the rebounding at his position. Yabu looks like, he's only 29 years old. Feels like he's going to be this new PJ Tucker in that. Great Tucker find. Also. Yep. Tucker away from the NBA for 5 years. Goes overseas, finds himself as a player, and then he's back in the NBA for another 10 years. Yabu at 29, maybe it'll be 6-7 years, but I just don't see him going anywhere. The Sixers season has been a disaster, but if they can get this together, they have a really high-level role player in Yabu to help complement Tyrese Maxey, who is finding himself this month after missing some time. Embiid, if he can get back healthy and stay healthy. And then Paul George, who's been up and down. Some massive ifs, Tom. But at the least, if you're a Sixers fan, this is the idea of what you were hoping for. You actually saw it for one night against the defending champions. So you have to at least feel like, this does exist. Like, it's here. There's actually this exists within the team. It's just, can we do this more often?
I know. And wouldn't it be so cool if Jared McCain was still healthy? I mean,
Oh
it's
my
like,
God, dude, that's what I thought about yesterday, Tom. Like, if only they had their other positive silver lining from this team too. Like, he felt like, oh my God, if they can get it together, they have an elite six man as a rookie.
One of the best stories of the NBA season. And if he was on Christmas Day doing the stuff he was doing earlier this season, and the TikTok superstar and all the dances and the energy that he brings to this 76ers team, it would have been awesome. And that was the thing I kept coming back to, is on Christmas Day, how awesome the energy was from everybody. It was such a great celebration of why the NBA is great. You had LeBron and Steph going at it. You had the Sixers Celtics rivalry as feisty as ever. And I know there was no Drew Holiday and Porzingis had to leave in the second quarter, but you had the big three on the 76ers side. You had healthy Wemby going against the Knicks, the full complement of the Knicks players. It was such a great day in the NBA, and we got an epic game between the Celtics and the Sixers. But I got to ask you here, Kev, getting a little worried about the Celtics? Little panic button here? I mean, you got losers of 3 of their last 4. What is it? 4? They've won 4 out of the last 7. Yep. Here we go. In the 3 losses, it was to Chicago, the Magic, and the Sixers, combined 43 and 46. They're 3 games under 500 combined records. They have an upcoming West Coast trip coming up on Thursday. Before then, they're going to play Indiana, Toronto, then Minnesota and Houston. Then they got the OKC game. So if they continue to kind of stumble, Porzingis is still hurt. He's got the ankle injury that he had in the second quarter. They could fall out of second place here if the Knicks make a little bit of a run here before that very highly anticipated OKC Boston matchup. So are you pressing that alarm button yet? Or are you just saying they're playing down to their opponents, they're going to be fine?
I think they're bored, and they have some injuries as well. I think Boston's bored. Now, granted, being bored could hurt you in the end if you end up with the 2 seed and you have to go against Cleveland on the road, or if the Knicks do surpass you and you're on the road, that might hurt you. Cleveland still on a 70-win pace, 26-4 post Christmas Day, still on a 70-win pace, which is remarkable. So maybe Boston, their December stumbles end up hurting them in May. But I wouldn't be worried unless injuries are an actual issue for them in the postseason. I still view them as the favorites in the East, a tier above everybody else. I know you feel that way with your power rankings as well. Your Tom's tiers on your Substack still have them as a 5-star contender. I would agree with that still. I've yet to see any evidence to change there. I just think you're seeing some other teams, Cleveland, obviously, to big step up. Knicks have really found themselves. Magic, they're not a threat with their injuries, unfortunately. I know
they were the other night. They were the other
night. I know, but
Silva, let's go.
I know, but there's still this feisty regular season team. But unfortunately, with all these injuries, they're just not going to be that team.
Is there anything in that 6-5 December that you are at least a little concerned about, roster construction or just health? Because I'm looking at Porzingis not being able to stay healthy this year. Yes, he's coming back. It's kind of what you're saying about Chet Holmgren. It's like, even if that dude comes back, how much can you really depend on him? Because you're now depending on 38-year-old Al Horford and Luke Cornett at the 5 with Porzingis in and out of the lineup. So I don't know if that is a long-term issue. You're saying feels like a short-term issue, not a long-term one.
I think it's more of a short-term issue. I mean, look, dude, all of last season, I said Boston needs Porzingis in order to win the finals. They really didn't. They didn't need KP last year. Like, they got him back in the finals, but he didn't finish the finals. So I don't think they necessarily need Porzingis to win the finals. He's just the piece that puts them way over the top of everybody else. It would be a tougher series against the Knicks or the Cavs or even a Bucks team playing at an elite level. But I don't think they necessarily need Porzingis. So I'm not pressing the panic switch for Boston yet. To me, this is just a regular season stretch of boredom for them and other teams that are really playing hard, trying to find themselves. Like the Sixers, they get their starters back. They're trying to find themselves. This game just matters more to them. Now, if this continues into January and into February and they continue to play average basketball, I think over the course of time, then I would start to worry more often. But for now, no, I'm not pressing the panic switch with Boston quite yet.